It's so reasonable. But our balance is great for sure. All sides.
Okay, it is 5:00 PM. On Tuesday, October 29th, 2024, I'll call a special town board meeting to order, which is a budget workshop. We'll take roll call. Mike Anderson.
Here.
Amy Baxter.
Here.
Susan Brenna.
Here.
Samantha Dobson.
Here.
And Glenn Carlson here. We also have our town clerk with us and our public works director and staff and library director and public. First order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment?
I have public comment.
Please go ahead.
I just wanted to talk about the properties that have a parcel as previously listed in formerly known as Wayne's World, and ask that the affordable housing looks into any kind of thing. Could be potential that there might be able to make a deal. I don't think we need the larger properties, but maybe let's just find out something about it if they would.
Okay. Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, Paul.
I hope you consider a pickup truck for the Sexton. I mean, sure would be nice. When pickup costs, we do, God knows whether they're earned or we're home, additionally doing Sexton. Just saying.
Is that it? Okay, thank you.
Until next week.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, moving on, 2025 budget discussion, and unfortunately, Lauren is not able to join us. She had a family medical emergency that she had to attend to. But she has given us all basically 3 sets of documents. We've got the department line items. We've got the overall, and the department line items are also our overall revenue line items. We also have the fee schedule with proposed changes to the fee schedule, and we also have the compensation resolution with adjustments that, for the most part, have been, I believe, recommended by the various department heads. So I am sort of wondering where we should start. And considering that all of the compensation amounts flow through the budget, rather than go through and deal with those as each department, does the board feel like it would like to consider proposals that we have in compensation to start with?
Yeah.
What's that? Well, it's the agenda just says 2025 budget discussion. So, yeah, so the and you know, wages are the biggest part of it. For the most part, people stuck with the 2.5% cost of living adjustments that we had recommended. There were some exceptions to that, primarily in Public Works Department and in the ambulance service. And I don't know, there might be some merit increases involved here that we can discuss separately from here, but I think in general, we'd like to try to keep the increases down to 2.5%. Again, there might be some situations that we would make an adjustment, but that's my opinion. And we got, you know, anything from, you know, 2.5% in one case in parks, but then there are a number that are significantly higher than 2.5%. So I would propose maybe after the meeting, I meet with Pete and Evan perhaps and talk about specific merit increases that are being recommended for specific people. But other than that, are there any other questions that anyone has on the compensation adjustments?
I have a question. So you're talking about the 2.5 COLA increase would be for full-time employees, not including a merit.
Yeah. Yes.
So for anybody who would put down for a merit, are they gonna get the 2.5 COLA increase on that?
Well, I think that it probably overall is all the same thing, really, whether you call it, the COLA increase is 2.5. What do you want to, do you think they deserve a 5%?
Well, a COLA is across the board,
Yep.
is the cost of living.
Yep.
But a merit is if Evan deserves, or Pete thinks Evan deserves a merit, that's different.
Right,
That's an increase, it's a wage increase.
right.
So what I'm saying is does the COLA automatically go with the merit increase?
I think so. I think everyone gets a COLA, and then it's a question of how much the merit increase is.
Okay, just so it's even Steven, just so everybody's,
If I may,
Go
when
ahead.
I created the spreadsheet for kind of determining wages and whatnot for Public Works. I have the 2024 rate, the 2.5% cost of living rate, and then a merit rate
on top of,
as a separate item to add on top of the cost of living.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Evan.
And then I have another question.
Go ahead.
Since the town owns the ferry boats now, so the camp host, on this, it says plus $1,200 ferry costs.
Mhm.
And so now that the town owns the ferry, how are we gonna work that out with Camp Post 1, Camp Post 2?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way that we're gonna handle the ferry with any town employees, any town usage of the ferry line. We're gonna try to keep the ferry operation finances separate from the town finances, even though ultimately it's all in the same pot. It's all the same people paying it, the taxpayers, if they have to pay. And so we will charge, the ferry line will charge, the Harbor Commission will charge the town for ferry usage by town departments, town employees. And it will simply improve the finances of the Harbor Commission, which will mean that the Harbor Commission will need less money potentially from the town or other people on the other side of it.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm getting at.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that if an employee comes from Maine,
Mhm.
they get ferry costs put in, and that's not on here. The Camp Post 1 and Camp Post 2 is on here.
I see what you're talking
It says
about.
$1,200 Camp Post 1 and $800 ferry costs for Camp Post 2. What I'm saying is, aren't they just the same as any other employee coming across on the ferry boat?
That I don't know.
Those are the only two employees that come across the ferry boat.
For the Public Works,
For Public Works, with the
Yeah.
exception of that area,
right? You're thinking of like the police?
Well,
Mike?
yes, I mean,
It should be in their budget.
yes, so why is it different for those two people? That's what I'm saying. Why is it different? Why does it say ferry cost? Well, of course, if they come from mainland, then it's $1,200.
And I think those amounts are put in there to limit the camp hosts on the amount of travel that they can go back and forth.
That's what it sounds like to me. It's just that's the number,
Mhm.
$1,200 Camp Post 1, which is rand, pretty much. And what I'm saying is, wouldn't it be, I just want everybody to be equal,
Mhm.
everybody to be the same. So,
The camp hosts actually are not commuting, right? They're living at the park for the most part.
Yeah, Monday through Friday, Rand and Fern come up.
Okay.
And they, they're here Friday through Sunday.
Okay.
And then we have a Monday through Friday camp host.
the
Okay.
Camp Post 1 gets $1,200 and the Camp Post 2 gets $800.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, then I would think they'd be treated like any other employee that comes across to the ferry boat. That's all.
Hmm.
Not anything, not anything above, up and above.
I think the idea of putting that in there is that we do get camp hosts that come up with an RV. and that's their main mode of transportation.
That could be.
And we did have a year where Campos was going back and forth to go get supplies when they're in their RV, and by July, they burnt up their entire budget for ferry fee. And by having that limit in there, you know, the town isn't paying for this Campos to go
Right.
back and forth continuously. It's made for, it's designed for one round trip per week is what that number is set for.
I seen a note that Lauren put, Lauren on her updated on October 9th. She updated it and she put a note in there for those two people. She said to look at that, so
Okay,
that's what I'm
okay,
doing.
great. Thank you, Mike.
Which is Campos one and.
Campos one would be Rand and Campos would,
That's what I thought.
No, Vern is assistant.
yes.
Two was Bill last year, and I don't think he's coming back.
So right now, Campos two is unnamed.
Yeah, we'll have to rehire for that position.
Any other questions on the compensation resolution? I did notice in the ambulance service, again, quite a bit of variance from the 2.5%. And I'm gonna talk to Sarah about that and see if there's a rationale for this.
Did you or anybody, for appointed officials, and it says to bring to minimum wage, $7.25, I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, we've never had that before, as far as I know. But apparently, technically, these appointed officials can only put in so much time for their monthly stipend. Because if they put in more time, they'll be working for under minimum wage. And so, I think that what that is to, say that, you know, their hours are gonna be driven by what the minimum wage is. So if they're getting $6 an hour and it's $7.25, well, that's however many hours, you know, 600 will buy at $7.25 an hour. And, you know, they need to not exceed that, basically.
So, who would be an appointed official?
Airport manager,
Oh, okay, got it,
I believe the fire chief,
got it.
yeah, there are a number of
It's on
them.
the back right here. On the
Oh,
back
yeah.
side of that.
Ambulance director, ambulance assistant director, fire chief, lead engineer, sexton. Submitted times must be equal or greater than minimum wage. So I had not seen that before either, Mike.
Yep, got it.
Okay, any other questions on compensation? Okay, let's move on to, let's go to the, let's look at the fee schedule, because then we can, we'll have everything that's an ingredient in the budget. And everyone has the documents. Does anyone have any questions or comments on anything in the fee schedule? Proposed fee schedule.
I don't have any changes, other than I would say that employees and department heads know more than I don't about what, you know, what to charge, what fees to charge. I don't know. So I would just put it in their hand. Take them.
Sue or Amy or Sam?
Do we have two Septembers?
Say again. Yes.
So this is just the fee for the second.
Yes, which will go away when we get the $180,000.
Right.
So it probably should go away in the budget.
I think, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had a question. Give me just a second.
Okay, well, while you're looking for yours,
I found it.
okay, go ahead.
So under special events, on the last, second to the last page, it says like it doesn't have a proposed 2025. So I'm assuming we're keeping it the same.
I think where there isn't the proposed 2025, the plan is to keep it the same as it is for 2024.
And then it also in the note said board to decide or public. I don't know what we're deciding.
Yeah,
if there's
no, I
change.
think that the question is there going to be a change?
Okay,
And
that was.
Yeah. anyone else on the? I just had one, and that's on the MERP, garbage, and then I'm thinking about those pre-printed cards. And trying to make it so that it can, we have a better accountability and I like the $6 and $8, but if we then go to 11 and 13, we have to have, a $6 thing, and then we have to have $2 ones and $1 ones. I'd rather see it just be sixes and twos. And so you've got 6, 8, 10, and 12.
The the $20 card is all ones. The blue cards have threes and ones. And then the big ones have 20s, 5s, and 1s.
Okay.
So there's
Big-
one of
so-
them already.
So you can, yeah,
Okay. So you think that we can accommodate the 6, and the 8, and the 11
yeah.
and
So if
13?
someone buys a $40 card, you punch 2 3s or 2 3s in a 1.
Okay.
Did the Murph?
Yes, it's been there for, I think, almost 2 years now.
Is there a way to get swipe instead of punch?
We haven't really looked into that much.
Then you can make the funds whatever.
It would be a lot easier
Get rid of the
to
card.
have like a Miffle type preload card.
Yeah,
I think I'm not sure, I'm not very familiar with Square. I assume that they must have a gift card option.
They
that
do.
we Could probably turn into it. I mean, that would be the way to go away from these
yeah.
printout paper cards. And I think it would be a lot easier to track daily sales.
Right,
Because right now it's, when we're going through a day at the Murph, you might have a day where you might have through the registered sold $45. Well, all day long you punching cards, you could have, but there's no way to see
Yeah,
on the daily register how much you're actually selling
right.
when 75% of what you're doing is punching cards. And then also too, keeping track of demolition, refrigerator, all the other items that we deal with at the Murph. There's no way to actually track through the Square system to see, oh, we sold, 120, or we took in $126 bags of trash.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be good if that could be a project for this year, so look into that. Get
Okay.
cards for the Square machine.
So the ferry line has the discount card. Is that I mean, it's not Square, but is that a system that could be utilized through the MERP?
oh, that's a fully custom
Okay,
software that Miffle built
Okay.
20 years ago.
okay.
There are probably simpler solutions than the legacy system that Miffle has,
Okay.
but that's what they have and that's what they've been using. But
Okay.
I would encourage,
Everybody has debit card or.
Yeah.
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 yeah, I think people would love that.
And they could-
Because a lot of times it's like, where's the checkbook? We haven't written a check.
Can I use my phone instead,
It would be nice to, I mean, most people who come to the Murph understand that
Yeah,
you need to have cash or check, but you do have the out of towners that come in and they have no clue and they need a cash or check and all they have is their card and they already threw their trash away, you're not gonna go get all the compactor. And so you're asking them to go down to the ATM at Tommy's or the grocery store or
They
whatever.
get charged $4 there. plus
Do we not take credit cards at all at the Murph?
No.
I thought that's why we got Square.
We did.
We got, well, the big reason to get Square was to get away from the archaic register that was there. That was the big push. Barb was never big into going into credit card sales. But it's something that I think it was, you know, not having the fees, but I believe Square, you can implement the service charge of
Sure.
what the credit card fee is to us, to the customer.
Mhm.
So again, I'm not very familiar with Square, but I assume that these are all things that could be figured out.
I think some, just to.
Oh, go ahead.
Credit card thing, because I wanted to do that for summer rec, and there was some, with Barb, I think there was something about municipality and having those fees, and there it might be something weird unless, you know,
Okay.
maybe there's, but she always pushed back on having.
Credit card. Okay.
But I do know now that, I mean, since then, they've implemented where you can have a customer pay that fee. So-
Right. Well, I think you're hearing the board would really encourage Public Works to look into getting something, and now, you know, it's slow time relatively, so that would be terrific.
Looking at bringing it to 21st century.
Yeah, that part. Thank you.
Nostalgic
Yeah.
punch card.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll sell those as souvenirs.
That's a great idea.
Okay, any other comments on the fee structure? Okay, on the budget itself then, let's just go through and I'm gonna go by sort of general category here. And now we have page numbers and we have headers on every page, so the first section let's look into is the revenue section. Are there any comments or changes that are suggested for that?
What's the status on the forest croplands? In the notes, because the people not paying, and I remember this coming up earlier in the year.
Yeah, the people not paying is the public accommodations taxes.
Was I reading it wrong?
Yeah, it doesn't quite line up.
Okay,
The forest cropland, someone got pulled out of the program. And
Yeah.
they ended up having to pay a bunch of
okay,
prior
okay,
taxes.
so that line made me remember that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why it was like 90,000 and
Okay.
it's like 3,000.
Okay,
And on the public accommodation taxes, we're really going to drill down. We've looked at some of why it's different from prior year. And I do know one of the largest rental agencies, well, probably the largest rental agency. Their numbers aren't comparable to this year because they inadvertently in their second quarter, their June 30th quarter that they remitted in 2023, they actually included all of their July taxes also. So they paid part of their third quarter taxes in the second quarter last year. So it shows, you know, that we're not getting as much in the third quarter as we got last year. Well, last year we got, you know,
More than we should have.
in the second quarter.
Right.
So that's part of the reason, hopefully, the other variances in that are similar, but we're looking into that.
You know, 5 down from forest cropland, what Sam was just talking about, 5 down from there, under special assessments.
Mhm.
Why, okay, so it's dropping,
Mhm.
and when they talk about special assessments, are they talking about rough road?
Mhm.
So why is that amount dropping?
Perhaps someone paid the whole
Or
thing
paid the
off.
whole thing off? That
That would be the only thing I can
that'd be
think of.
only-
Caswell.
As well, paid, you know, they're.
They're all,
Front.
okay.
how do you guys know that?
General talk.
I mean, I didn't know that.
and the people.
I believe so.
Board meeting,
I know Sandy asked the question, I don't, know.
They asked if they could.
Yeah.
Yeah. They asked if they could.
Lauren was asking you guys if you have plans to sell anything, do you?
Evans worked with.
You should at your next regular board meeting have the auction list.
Oh, but it's for this year though? It wouldn't be
Yeah.
in next year's budget.
No, next year,
You don't have any plans to sell
not yet.
Is that more of a like end of the year, you kind of assess where things are, or?
A little
They're like,
bit.
it's like a year time frame.
Over the last 2 years or so, we've been doing a lot of cleanup and getting rid of things.
We had an old Ford truck donated to the fire department that. The fire number sign installers were using for part of the year and it's kind of falling apart, send it down the road. Got an old dump truck that we get rid of. For trailers.
A good chunk of that is Miffle.
Yeah,
equipment.
Biffle handed us some stuff they didn't want to deal with.
They got the fridge truck, the red plow truck, 2 trailers. And the one minivan that they wanted to go up for auction was determined that it should just be scrapped. So that's in that MRF to go through the scrap programs.
it, but you wanna keep these blank for next year.
Yeah, we just don't know what we're gonna get rid of.
Yeah, if anything else.
Okay,
And you guys are sticking firm if you think that the park is gonna make more money like next year than this.
We did some digging into the park system and there's just no way to. With the 600-day reservation, I don't know what to call it, ahead of time rental, there's just no way to see that. You know, we're getting people that are reserving for 2026
Yeah,
and paying now. It is, and so until we get, you know, up.
a few years under our
Then
belt.
it should stabilize
Yeah.
and we should be back to what our kind of regular numbers, because it's just a complicated way to.
The reservation
raises.
system is designed to break that down. It doesn't even show like occupancy,
Okay,
year to date occupancy.
well, okay. Thank you.
We
Anyone?
did add 2 sites, which, I mean, it increases revenue probably a total of
6,000.
6,000 for the year.
Thank you. Other questions on the revenue side?
For the fire, well, not that there's anybody here, but department, on the fire department fees. So it was $1,100 in the budget for 23 for last year, and there's nothing for 25. And there's, I'm just wondering, what was that $500 fees for the fire department? What was that about?
That, don't quote me on this, could have been for hats and sweatshirts and stuff
That they sold?
that we were gonna purchase. Are you talking about revenue?
Revenue side, yeah.
I could not answer.
Were there any fines for fire
I don't know.
this
That's-
year?
that's $500.
Okay,
I don't know the answer.
We'll try to find an answer.
They had a.
Yeah, they must have had something to raise $1,100.
I can't remember. That was all.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, and it's important, I think, to note that even though that 1,100 was in the budget in 2023, Mike,
Yeah,
2023 actual had 0.
that's,
And
yeah, that's,
2024 so far has had 0.
yeah,
So,
it's 0 except for that line.
yeah,
So my question is, what prompted them to put $1,100
I don't
into
know.
that?
they didn't put it into this year's budget.
No, they didn't put, no, so they have it last year.
Okay, other questions on revenues? I would suggest that we decrease the interest income by $5,000. I think interest rates are lower than they were last year, and so I don't think 20,000 is going to be a realistic amount.
So decrease it by $500.
Maybe 5,000, so down to 15,000. And looking to see if there's anywhere we can make that up. I'm looking at the sale of recyclable material that we've got for $20,000 in the budget, and so far this year, we've brought in 27,000. Is there a likelihood that we can squeeze another 5,000 out of recyclable materials?
I'm not sure. I mean, the reason that we have such a large number this year is, again, we I believe it was this last winter, we had a whole influx of cars that we crushed and sold off.
40+ vehicles.
Oh, wow.
All the catalytic converters added up, lots.
And that was this year.
That was this spring.
Starters.
Okay,
And right now, I think we have enough for 2 loads to go over, which is accounts for about,
14, 15.
yeah. So unless some more people are getting rid of vehicles, that's where we get a lot of money from. I mean, we get quite a bit for aluminum bales and, no, we don't get a whole bunch for cardboard. And obviously we're getting rid of plastics and paper,
right.
but those didn't never really count much for recyclable sales.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the revenue side? Okay. Moving on to the expenses, general government. We'll go first. I think we can probably knock $10,000 off of the legal expenses. So from the 40,000, I think we can do 30,000. If you look at what we've got so far this year, it's only 25,000 on page 3.
So you're saying
Drop that 40,000 down to 30,000.
10 grand off.
Yeah. And we did reduce the town administrator wages. You know, we will probably have a fair idea of what that's going to be before we need to approve the budget. So I don't know that it makes a lot of sense right now to drop that, but I have a feeling it's going to be lower than that.
But the only, going back to the legal fees, you know, at some point, we're gonna get an answer to that lawsuit,
Right.
and that's gonna be some money. It's gonna, you know,
Well, the money's been spent, you know, the legal fees have been spent. The question is if we, if we go further on this decision.
If we're denied.
so you
Yeah.
think,
Oh, what are you talking about? Going to,
it's at, right now, we're just under 25,000.
Right.
And Glenn's saying that if we take 10,000 off of 40 for next year, and what I'm saying is if we end up in that lawsuit,
we want to take it to the Supreme Court, the Wisconsin Supreme Court for taxation
well, I'm just,
lawsuit?
I'm thinking that if we turn around and say, well,
I mean,
if we spent that much money already on it,
mhm.
and then we take $10,000 off for next year, and we haven't even gone to court yet about it, I don't know how we're gonna spend less money.
But they've already written their arguments and it's just a judge deciding. It's not like,
The back end work has been done.
yeah,
Yeah,
Doesn't have to be litigated.
they prepared.
Is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
Okay.
Again, I think on administrator insurance, it's gonna depend on, you know, what insurance they take. Accounting services, we dropped that a bunch when we talked at the last meeting, but I think it could go down by another 15,000. You know, with Lauren leaving, I think we're going to you know, hopefully find somebody that isn't going to need that kind of backup in terms of accounting, that it'll be someone with a lot more experience on the accounting side.
So
So
then that would just be 20,000.
I would take that down to 20,000, I think.
From 35,
Yeah,
you can drop it 50 grand.
yeah, and it was up to 60.
Mhm.
But that was assuming, I think that Lauren was going to continue and would continue to need that sort of backup from, you know, but
I think that sounds like a good plan.
does anyone else have any comments on general government expenditures? Okay, want to move on to police? I do think we need to figure out a way to pull the wages down to at least not much more than what we're spending this year. And so,
We need to talk to Bill about scheduling.
yeah. I mean, I'm fine with, taking this year's and, cost of living for folks. But, it's, well, the total is 440,000. And as everyone knows, that's in addition to the, whatever we pay the sheriff.
Right, yeah.
And I don't see that we're gonna do anything drastic this next year with the police. I don't see, going to constables or, outsourcing it to Bayfield or Ashland County. I think that part of it is we need to wait and see what happens with the court case. And we do get some relief on that. But I do think, this was almost a 10% increase in wages from last year. So I'll talk to Bill. Anybody have anything else on?
Yeah, under police, why, does anybody know why it's shaded gray in the last or second to the last two for workers' comp and the property and liability?
Yeah, they're doing, and this was at the recommendation of the accountant that Lauren's been working with. They're only breaking out now the workers' comp and the liability insurance for roads and police, because those are the only places where we get some reimbursement of those costs from either the state or county for road work. The rest of the workers' comp and general liability insurances that used to be allocated across to every single department is now just showing up in general government as an expense. So the ones that can get broken down are broken down, and those are the shaded ones. And then the rest show up under general government.
So in this year's budget,
Mhm.
so it's it's almost $10,000.
Yeah.
And for next year's budget, it's $3,000 or 36.
So this year's actual for workers' comp so far is about 5,400. It is projected to go down to 3,600. That's worth taking a look at.
Yeah, that's a big discrepancy.
Yeah, and I just wonder, because we're not showing anything in 2024 actual for property and liability insurance for the police. So let's take a look at that. I'll talk to Lauren about that. Okay, anything else on police? Okay. Fire? The accountant pointed out that the utilities line item should probably be more around $7,000 rather than 10. So that would be a $3,000 reduction. And if you look at fire training, I don't know. I know a lot more people on the department now, but it's another $3,000 over what it was in 2023 for training and education. I think that might deserve a check with the fire chief or whoever's doing their budget. And on the turnout gear, I saw that Red had wanted 3 sets of turnout gear a year. He said they only last 10 years. They want to do a rotation of 3 a year for 10 years, but that's 30 sets over 10 years. And they've only got like 20 some people on the staff. So I think they could get by with 2 a year. That way over 10 years, we're replacing 20 of them. And that'll cut that down by a couple $1,000s.
And that's
Everybody we just got.
Okay,
Because the other stuff burned out.
Right.
yes. Thank you,
You've
Pete.
got some time.
Yeah, yeah. So let's get on a reasonable schedule of replacement. Yeah. We might not have to spend anything on turnout gear for a while, but yeah,
Are we going to suggest what that should be or just
I would suggest that we cut 2,000 off of that.
half of the 6,000?
yeah.
I'd feel more comfortable if we asked why,
Okay.
I mean.
Well, we know his justification was 3 new sets a year for, in the last 10
Well,
years.
is it because they're supposed to have 22 people on the roster. So do they want, or are they gonna think
Believe that.
more than that?
Been increased.
Yeah, I mean, if there's gonna be more than that, then that,
Might have-
what he says makes sense.
How many?
I think we might have 27 or 28.
Really?
See, that makes sense if that's the reason for it.
Now, I thought that there was some limit that we had on the size of the roster.
There is something in the bylaws that limits it, but I'm not sure
Okay, we might want to,
specifics.
I
yeah,
only know the minimum is 22.
Yeah.
I don't know
okay,
the maximum,
okay.
but that could be the reason why he has those numbers the way he has. them.
And that would be 30 then, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
I would just say ask.
I'll check with Red. Anything else on fire?
Just out of curiosity, in the wages for 2024, is that number so low because it hasn't been submitted? For the actual?
Oh, yeah, they tend to get, I think a big part of the fire department wages are paid annually
Yes.
Okay. And it happens.
at the end of the year.
In December. every year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
That makes
No,
sense.
good question.
Shopping.
Yeah, yeah.
Fair enough.
Other questions on that? And the fire equipment, that was, I believe, their capital. Okay, ambulance, unfortunately, the top 4 lines got cut off in what we received. So you don't have wages, the length of service award, FICA, or retirement. But the wages were just way, more than what they have been by like $50,000. Yeah. So I would propose, and I know we just talked, when we talked about the compensation, some of those numbers, if they come down, bring that down. But again, I'll talk to Sarah about why there is such an increase in that.
I believe they're adding a bunch of EMRs to the roster, which would increase it.
Yeah, and that might be,
Can you ask her if the miscellaneous expenses is right too?
oh, the 7,000.
Yeah,
Yeah, that, I saw that too, and I thought, again, you could probably shave a couple thousand off of that.
Well, it was like 500 this year.
Yeah.
Actual, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Going from 500 through October 9th to 7,000 for
I
next
think
year,
that might be like,
A bit much.
yeah, it might be a type.
hopefully.
right?
Yes. Okay, other ambulance questions?
Well, the same with the expendable equipment and supplies. The actual is always much lower than what they budget for. So is there a reason why they budget so high?
Yeah, it is.
So,
Because it's consistent.
Yeah,
It is.
if things expire, because I mean, it's very expensive, like EpiPens and
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
expiration date, like a 2-year expiration date. So they might be expiring this spring.
But that
Maybe
seems
she
to
had
be a big padding on the number.
But yeah, that would also be something that's very consistent. You would know that it's expiring and it would be this revolving expense that,
The actual has been 16,
Yeah.
but they've been budgeting 4,000.
Right.
right, 4,000, yeah. Okay, anything else on ambulance? Okay, moving on. Roads. Anyone have anything on roads?
Well, Lauren has a lot of notes here about why the increase. And the only one that I thought I had an answer for her was culvert materials, and that's because we used them all in the last big storm, right?
We have a good stockpile, but
Pretty good stockpile.
there's also out on North Shore about 4 or 5 different culverts that are 30 in diameter and 60 to 120 feet long.
Yeah. Achieving.
And then there's also a big one on Mission Hill that we're watching. That's also a 30 incher that's 60 or 70 feet long.
Yeah, I'm looking fuels and oils up to 50,000. And we've only done 20,000 so far this year.
We had a no snow winter. We were, I think, around that 48,000 the year.
The year before, 42,000.
And so we'd rather have
Got
a
it.
higher number in there to
Okay.
be safe.
Okay.
One year we went 25,000 over budget. Fuels.
With that.
For county H wages, so you guys bill out to the county, right, for maintenance?
Yes.
And so why the decrease, you budgeted for the 24, or somebody budgeted like 40,500. And next year you have 16.7.
When I created the payroll, table, I didn't have any information to go on. Jamie didn't seem to have any information as to how many hours we spend in each department. And we're spread out between pretty much all the town departments. So it was pretty much when I was creating the table and entering the formulas, I was kind of guessing how many hours we may spend in each department. So kind of all the town crew labor wages in all the different departments is kind of a shot in the dark, and I'm hoping that this I mean, in the end, the wage number comes out to what we have at working a full year.
Right.
In your
The overall-
compensation, yeah, it ties out to your compensation.
But
plan.
kind of the table that was made is just kind of a shot in the darkest. In terms of how many hours we're working, and hopefully this upcoming year, we can keep better track of where our hours are being spent, so we can have a more accurate budget.
Okay, thank you, Evan. Any other questions on roads? The airport? Acton Harbor?
I had a question. See it on here, but why for the fees for the dock? What, I don't understand where those fees, I don't have it marked down here, but I know it was in my head. So what fees are they talking about? Do they collect from the town dock?
You're talking about on the revenue side, Mike?
Yeah, well, just
Um,
on the.
well, they get it from Miffle, right, but now from the Harbor Commission.
Not talking about that, I'm talking about the fees that they get. What amount is it? It's not much.
They've got a budget for 75,000 for docks and harbors on page 2 of the revenue.
No, that's, there's a fee for the town dock. And the only thing I can think of is like when they unload gravel at the end or something,
Right.
charging a fee.
Yeah,
There's no some construction. Paved.
That's the only thing I can think of.
well, yeah, I mean, they,
Island, probably large.
But that's a lease, that's part of the lease agreement.
I believe there is a stipulation in the fee schedule for
20 cents a pound or 20 cents a ton.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's in the fee schedule, so that
Yeah.
might be what that ties out to.
Yes.
I'm trying to find where those fees are.
Yeah, I had it
Um,
in head, but did,
I was just looking at it.
I can't find it.
Maybe other transportation.
It's just something, when we got to that page, I thought it would be there, it's not.
Yeah, this is all the expense side that we're looking
Yeah.
at. Okay, anyone else have anything on docks and harbor? Okay, Murph?
I mean, Oregon's got the note of 24%. Why the increase? Because it was last year budgeted the solid waste wages at 40,000 and now it's at 48,000.
Again, that the same thing as town roads, there's a spreadsheet with the formula for calculating out wages. In the end, the wage number is former between solid waste and recycling, essentially Marty and Michael's wage comes out to, let me see here.
You know, just saying if they worked 40 hours, because they've been working under.
Marty would work 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, and Michael is limited to about 15, 16, because he's collecting social security. So between the two of them, wages are about 96, 97,000 in total. Again, that was just a kind of throw a shot in the dark.
I think what you did was take the worst case scenario, if they put in all their hours.
Yep.
Yep, and you just put in the worst case scenario, and they didn't.
This year it's been less, but.
Yeah.
And again, like, there is the town labor line item, which is us. And, you know, for this year, that number might be up because I've had more for the month of October.
Right.
Yeah, that makes.
And,
So that makes up for the actual, but we didn't. see
Yeah.
last year. Yep.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, on the clinic? Okay, cemetery? Library? Parks? I have a question on parks, on the reservation system fees. You've got 25,000 down there. And that was the budget for this year, but it's showing that in 2023, we only incurred about 13,000, and so far this year, it's been 10,500. What makes you think it's going to be that much more when the revenues aren't projected to be that much more?
And that could probably be decreased. That's just, again, kind of just seeing that last year was 25,000.
Okay,
Not knowing the reservation system and how that works, just
okay,
going worst case.
We'll take 10,000 off. of
Yeah,
that,
I would say-
15.
yeah, I'd say go to 15 on that.
On which one now?
She has it, no, the average is 13.
Yeah, so
So
13, 15,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Okay, anybody else? Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
it does look like there's a big difference with the rec center town labor. There's pretty big difference.
Oh, are we doing some at the rec center
Rob.
this year?
No, again, that's that
Oh,
spreadsheet.
breakout, remember he just.
Yeah,
pulled up-
breaking it.
Breaking it out.
down on the labor.
Been saying where everybody's working.
Oh,
He just
breaking
threw
it
in
out.
numbers
Okay.
everywhere.
All right.
And I believe too, oh no, never mind, that's not Rick Center, that's just parks.
Okay.
Yeah,
Anything else? Moving on, community awards, I think they need a budget of $50.
Yeah,
And Public Arts, they did get $1,000 budget last year. I don't know that we got a specific request. 1,500. I think I'd be willing to give them what we gave them last year.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Be 1,000.
Mhm.
Everyone good with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to zoning. Anything? Energy Committee, that is a new item. And that is for the microgrid,
Right.
ESB. That's the town's share. And the accommodation tax to the Chamber of Commerce is just a percentage of revenues collected. So it's driven by that revenue number. Okay, moving on to capital outlays. The only thing that I am aware of that is an open issue is on that local roads capital outlay. We're showing 152,000 for estimated or actual for this year so far. I don't think that that covers all of the Hagan Road expenses, our share of that. So I know that Lauren has inquired of the Department of Transportation how much more we can expect to have to pay on that. So there may be an amount in that proposed 2025 column once she gets an answer from them. Otherwise, does anyone have any questions on any of the capital improvements?
So what, there isn't any amount for 25 for proposed
Right.
capital?
I mean, I don't think we know if maybe we are going to have to pay all of it this year, but whatever balances due.
Oh, so what you're saying is, okay, I got you.
Okay, and the debt service is the debt service. Not much we can do about that, but this,
And then it's a separate category, like if we want to put money into a designated fund for the gravel, that's a separate category. right?
we have that in here as an actual amount. Because that's not going to go into a designated fund, right? That is actually going to be really spent.
Gravel site capital outlay is
Yeah.
kind of what we ended up.
Yeah.
It's 16.
Yeah, so that is 100,000.
Oh, I see.
That
Yep.
was actually going to be money out the door in 2025.
So that's 100,000 for 25, and we're not going to do a designated fund. Correct. Okay, got it.
Yeah, I mean, putting money aside in a designated fund for gravel doesn't make a whole bunch of sense because the longer you wait, it's just gonna be more expensive. If you wanna put $100,000 into it, you might as well buy the gravel now.
Yeah. A lot of that will probably end up with the truck. The truck is insanely expensive.
And if you're gonna hire a quad axle, I believe it's 120, 130 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the only way to get it here. And since we own the ferry, we might as well take advantage of that and not have to pay for barging. And just pay ourselves.
Well, as long as that's cost effective as far as labor and everything else. And that we can do it in light times and not first thing in the morning or, that kind of thing.
We haven't come up with a firm plan of how we want to
Okay.
do things. It's just a thought that's floating around.
I think we could have sticky roads and just every time that we bring the trash over, we fill it with gravel on the back.
We tried that. You get a whole lot of leftover depth.
Right.
When we had Joe, he was doing backfalls of gravel.
Oven.
And he was very good about making sure the box was clean before he went to C&W and got filled with gravel.
Right.
But they're getting 10 yards at a time, is it gonna get you?
Right.
Yeah.
It may make sense still to do the barge, I guess.
It may,
It would make
yeah.
a lot more sense. I mean,
Do it all at once.
To haul one truckload here and there.
Right.
Yeah.
You can just bite the bullet, get it over with, get it all done.
And weren't you talking about putting it
I mean,
somewhere
you've got
over
it.
by the ice road landing?
Well, one idea is to essentially close down a section of the dirt parking lot and stockpile there. And from there haul it across on the boat. But, you know, we'd have to figure
We
out
can also put that.
what's the cost per ton to do it that way versus hiring Arnie to do 110, 120 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as Pete mentioned, you know, this could go out on bid, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They've Steve done, there's a couple other people in the area.
Okay. All right, anything else on the budget then? We have also done the fee schedule.
if I could just say one thing, I mean, we threw numbers in there for designated funds towards like the grader and a new dump truck. Obviously, if more can be put in towards that, that would be great. As Pete mentioned last meeting, a new grader is pushing 400,000.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
135,000.
so the more we can put into a fund now, the better for when we decide to make that purchase.
yeah, you know, and this gets back to, you know, in the past, the town board did do a lot of designated fund transfers every year to build up to then buy it. And we've seemed to have gone to more of a not putting it into the designated fund, and when we need to buy it, with the exception like of the fire truck, I think was a good example, but that like the latest thing that had been leasing that we've now bought,
The loader.
yeah, we just outright bought that,
Yeah.
and I think finance.
Got it low.
Yeah. got a-
Yeah, I mean, John Deere offers great financing, especially towards municipalities.
They do,
And if we,
1 year deferred payments as well. which is
Okay.
pretty nice.
but if we could still put in money into a fund, because in the end, when it comes to the option to buy, we probably go ahead and make that purchase. But it'd be nice to have money sitting in a fund to be able to either make those payments towards that grader or dump truck, for when we decide to finally do it,
In an ideal world.
in an ideal world.
Keep an eye out, because I know Sammy Moline, where he works, I got a whole bunch of John Deere loaders, and 7 out of 10 were junk.
Hmm.
Granted, it's warranty, but it's specifically happening, they don't work it.
Yeah.
I don't look at Caterpillar, just put it out.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, moving on, we have a purchase order for the jet ski. This is coming out of the fire department's 6606 account. We previously looked at this and weren't sure where it was coming out of, so now that we know, we can approve this purchase order. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we approve the purchase order to Hayward Power Sports for $17,401.45. And P2Prescue.com for $1,335 for its sticky little stuff that goes on it.
I'll second that.
And seconded, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are going to go into closed session to talk about the interim accounting position. And this is for purposes of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. After the completion of the closed session, the board will come back into open session to act upon the discussion in the closed session or otherwise complete the business of the meeting before adjourning. Thank you all.
Somebody forget their stuff?
Back and talk about.
No, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can shut that door.
Okay, so is there a motion to go into closed session for this purpose?
I'll make a motion, we go into closed
You can
session.
shut that door, Pete. There you go. There you go.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, Mike Anderson,
Yes.
Amy Baxter, Susan Brenna,
Yes.
Samantha Dobson.
Yes.
Glenn Carlson, yes, we are in closed session.
Stand up.